Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. I'm here with Johnny. How's it going, Johnny?
Doing well, Garrett. Hope everything with you is going well as well. Here in the holiday season, we're actually filming this on Christmas Eve, so happy holidays to everybody out there listening to whatever you may celebrate. But looking forward to talk about some basketball because we have some real basketball back.
Yes, sir. We got the first little taste of some games of NBA action, legitimate NBA action, not the preseason. And the first thing that we want to talk about is the Brooklyn Nets. Now, we saw KD and Kyrie pretty much go off against the Golden State Warriors the other day. And I mean, looking at this team from top to bottom with those two, Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, DeAndre Jordan, do you think that this team, I know they're probably not going to be the favorites because there's still question marks, but do you think that they should be the favorites if they're healthy?
I'm not ready to declare them the favorites yet. I know the Bucks haven't come out of the East yet, but we've seen them dominate the regular season the last couple of years, and I expect that to still happen this year. I certainly think that the Nets have a chance to be there. I have them in the top three, um, and a lot of it was just contingent on what Katie and Kyrie look like because they are the focal points on the team. If they play and look as they did against the Warriors, then I don't think it's far fetched to consider them the favorites in the playoffs. But at this point, I'm not ready to declare them yet. It is just one game. I think we're going to see it a lot as we talk about kind of what happened in the first couple days, where we're going to see a lot of overreactions, and that's just natural after the first game. But after we give it, 5, 6, 7 games, we'll start to see things settle down, and then we'll have a more of a clear picture as to how we think things will unfold.
Yeah, it is still early, of course. I mean, we've only seen like a few games of NBA action, and they only played one game. But I mean, in terms of how they looked against the Warriors, which again you got to take with a grain of salt because the Warriors weren't fully healthy, and really they're not going to be healthy like all year because Clay's going to be hurt. But I think that the way the Nets played, it looked like their chemistry was on point. I think Karis LeVert is really like buying into the six man role, kind of like I believe even Skip Bayless said like you're the Manu Ginobili of this team. So I mean, it seems like everyone's kind of on par. It looks like Steve Nash has a good thing going with some of the players. It looks like they have a good connection. So I think if things keep up in this fashion, I think that they'll have a really good chance. And in my opinion, they're still the favorites. They are the favorites in the East. I know the Bucks have been up there for several years, but of course they've never gotten over that last hump to get to the finals. So I think it's kind of up in the air. Um, and there's a really good chance that if this team keeps it up, that they might be the favorites in both conferences.
I think something important to note before we move on is also that the Nets will always have at least one playmaker on the court just because when you consider their roster, you have KD, Kyrie, you have Spencer Dinwiddie, and Karis LeVert. There's not going to be a time when you don't have at least one of them on the court. And at most points, you're going to have at least two of them on the court. So I think that's something that's very important to note because when Steve Nash decides to go to the bench, you're not really missing out on a lot of offense. You still have somebody out there that can create for others. I think it's more of a luxury than anything to have that many playmakers on the team.
Yeah, and I was telling my dad like the way the league has been changing, it's more perimeter oriented. Um, Basically, like you need a high level point guard, you need high level wing players if you want to win in this league. And I'm looking at players that play on the perimeter like Kyrie, Durant, Dinwiddie, LeVert, Joe Harris. Like I don't know if there's any other team in the league that compares with them. Maybe the Clippers, but I think after their top three with like Kawhi, Paul George, and Lou Williams, there's a little bit of a drop off. Of course, the Lakers have like LeBron and Schroeder, but then there's a drop off. Like I don't know if there's any other team that really competes with the Nets in that category. So personally, I think that there's a pretty good chance that they could be the favorites when we get closer to the end of the season if they keep playing like this.
Yeah, I certainly can see it coming. And as I said, I think regular season speaking, I'm not ready to appoint them the favorites just because of a couple of reasons. A, the Bucks are new look Bucks. They got better in my opinion with Drew Holiday, and B, we've just seen the Bucks dominate the East the last couple of years, and at least in terms of the regular season, I do expect the Bucks to still finish up there. Postseason is a different story, but I'm just not ready to do it after one game. That's all.
Yeah, and of course, there's a lot of season left, and I'm sure that this team coming up is also saying that there's a lot of season left because they were on the other end of things, and that's the Golden State Warriors. As for the Warriors, I mean, Steph Curry, he did struggle in that game. Of course, we're expecting him to, bounce back, of course. But I mean, guys like Andrew Wiggins, I mean, they've kind of been up and down their whole career. Uh, I mean, Kelly Oubre didn't really have a great game. Draymond didn't play. Clay's already out all year. Should we be worried to some extent, though, about the Golden State Warriors?
I think my worry with the Warriors is more so put on Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre's shoulders because I expect Steph to still have a great season. We haven't seen Dre yet, so he's going to shore up some of that front court. But if the Warriors can't get anything going from any of their wings, it's going to be a long season. The league is dominated by wings. It's LeBron, it's Kawhi, it's Giannis. If the Warriors can't get something going there, they're going to struggle. I think Kelly Oubre is going to settle in. It's Andrew Wiggins where I really pinpoint most of my worries because this is really a spot where he could be the second option on this team if you think about it. And the way he's playing, he's turning over the ball, he's not taking good shots, he's not making his shots. Um, and it's not even something that's just happened this year. Even when he was given the chance last year, we're seeing some of the same things. So I think a lot of what happens with the Warriors rests on Andrew Wiggins' shoulders. And if he continues with his poor form, I don't like the outlook on the Warriors.
Yeah, and I know this is a small sample size, but I think in the finals in 2019, when the Warriors didn't have Durant, of course they were still an elite team, but obviously that wasn't their depth of, the 2016 team. And obviously it doesn't seem like since then they've really had the same depth since. And now you lost Klay Thompson. So basically what you're banking on is that these wing players can be the right fit and fill that void for Klay Thompson. Now, in terms of like total production output, maybe they can, but I mean, there's a difference between being a good fit in a system and necessarily like just putting out numbers. And I think guys like you said, Andrew Wiggins, um, and Kelly Oubre, I think they're gonna have to be able to fill the role in a proper way. Because from what I saw in the game the other day, it didn't really look like Warriors basketball at all. Um, it looked like they were relying so much on Curry, uh, and I mean, usually they do go through Curry, but there's the luxury of having a Klay Thompson or a Kevin Durant or Draymond Green to help initiate the offense as well. And I mean, Draymond will be back, but that's kind of a concern for me because I don't know what to think about the Warriors or with some of their wing players.
I think I think the other thing that we have to consider when we talk about it is that like when we're talking about the success of the Warriors, it's more so whether or not they make the playoffs this year than even compete for a championship because at least personally, I think you're on the same boat here is that we don't even consider them championship contenders. It's just a matter of whether or not they sneak into the to that bottom half of the Western Conference playoffs. And so um, even that could be considered a stretch at this moment. And so I think that's kind of where our discussions are geared more so the outlook on them making the playoffs as opposed to them actually making a push for a title.
Yeah, and even a playoff run will be hard because they don't really have too many experienced players other than Steph and Draymond this season that are going to be playing. They don't really have too much experience. A lot of their bench is a bunch of young players. But we're gonna progress here to the probably what I'd say is the more entertaining game on opening night. Uh, a rivalry that dates back probably to the beginning of last season, and that's the Lakers and the Clippers. The Lakers, they made a lot of moves this offseason, got Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, and a bunch of other dudes. But I mean, the Clippers also made some moves, getting Ibaka and Luke Kennard, and they pulled off the win the other day. So, what were your thoughts? What were your takeaways on this Lakers Clippers showdown?
Yeah, I thought that the Lakers looked like terrible and yet still almost won this game, which kind of shows that I think they are still deservedly the favorites. Because they still do have some things to work out chemistry wise. Schroeder starting, Gasol starting, Wesley Matthews coming off the bench, Montrezl Harrell coming off the bench. Is Taylor Horton Tucker going to get playing time? It's a lot for them to sort out, and yet they still almost won the game. LeBron and AD finished right at that 30-minute mark, so they weren't even getting a lot of minutes. So I think a lot of it is just going to be the Lakers kind of shuffling their way through the regular season. Whereas the Clippers, played their guys and played a normal rotation, played very well, and yet still almost lost that game. I know there was no Marcus Morris, but um, I think the I think the reign still is with the Lakers here. But the Clippers certainly did look good. I think Kennard looked good. Um, I'm not sure if we're going to see Ibaka start the rest of the season or if we're going to see Zubats. So I think that's something to kind of keep a close eye on. And then once we do get Marcus Morris back, we can shift Batum to the bench.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting seeing that they decided to start Ibaka because I thought he was going to be coming off the bench as well. But of course, there's, like we said, a lot of season left, a lot of time left to decide all that. But my takeaway is that I think that the Clippers, I think this is a good fit for a guy like Serge Ibaka, and it seemed like it was a better fit as opposed to Montrezl Harrell. I know it's only one game, but I mean, just the way that he was helping, like, uh, keep some of these guys out. I think that they helped exploit some of the Lakers' new bigs' weaknesses with Montrezl Harrell and Marc Gasol. So I think you got to give them credit for that. I think that the Lakers, because they got exploited there, I think their defense and length has taken a hit a little bit. But I mean, in terms of their offensive firepower, I mean, Schroeder almost gave you like a triple double off the bench. Montrezl Harrell almost gave you like 20 and 10 as well. Um, so I think that their offense is going to be a lot better this season. And I think honestly, if I remember before last season, people were saying that that Lakers team was going to be skeptical defensively, but still a force to be reckoned with offensively. I think maybe this is the kind of Lakers that we'll get this season. I think their offensive firepower might be the best in the league. However, I think their defense, I don't know if it'll be top five, and if it is, it might be like barely scraping the bottom of that barrel. Uh, but I mean, we'll see. That's just what I thought about that game, and of course, I think Paul George is trying to make a statement as well, based on last season how that all ended. And I think that his second half, showed exactly that.
I think to me, what'll be interesting if these teams do end up meeting further down the road in the playoffs is what the closing lineups look like, specifically with the bigs. Because if the Clippers go with Ibaka at the five, Gasol having to kind of stretch the floor, it's tougher for Gasol to guard the perimeter, right? If you go with Harrell, Ibaka can kind of beat Harrell up down low. Um, but specifically for the Clippers, having Ibaka on the court at the five means that all five players on the court at any given point can hit a 3-pointer, which I think is big, kind of just spacing the floor. Um, I just don't know if the Lakers will go AD at the five, right? Because they could always go AD at the five. They could go Markeith at the four, LeBron at the three, and then still play some combination of their guards. The Lakers just have a lot of flexibility because I know AD says he doesn't like to play the five, but when he does play the five, it just gives him so many pieces to move one through four. Um, and so for me, a lot of it is just kind of my intrigue with the closing lineups of both these teams.
Yeah, and I think you're probably going to see, at least when these two teams play, you're going to see a lot more double teams thrown. There were a lot thrown at uh, Kawhi, and also AD was guarding him majority of the game, and also there were a lot thrown at AD the other way around. So I think that you'll be seeing a lot more of that as well. Now, as for, of course, the day two games, there was a lot. I think um, we're kind of just gonna take like a 2 minute talk about each of them. I don't know if you want to give your thoughts on the games the other day first, or if you want me to go.
Yeah, I can do it. Quick rundown of what happened. So Sixers beat the Wizards. New look squads for both, right? So you have Russell Westbrook on the Wizards, and you have uh, a new backcourt, if you will, with Seth Curry and Danny Green on the Sixers. Russell Westbrook did put up a triple double. Team was missing Rui Hachimura. Sixers kind of won that game down the stretch with Ben Simmons coming in clutch. Magic beat the Heat. Once again, some new look Heat team with Mo Harkless, Avery Bradley, Precious Achua, the rookie. He got some playing time, but it was the Magic that came out victorious. Not a lot happened in that game. Cavaliers over the Heat, or over the Hornets. I'm sorry. Nothing cracking for LaMelo Ball in his rookie debut. Gordon Hayward looked solid. Terry Rozier put up some big numbers, as did JaVale McGee off the bench for the Cavs. But it was ultimately the Cavs backcourt of Garland and Sexton that won that game for them. Pacers over the Knicks. RJ Barrett went into halftime shooting 8 for 8 with 20 points, but it was a big game from Sabonis that ended up proving to be the difference for the Pacers. And it does look like Sabonis will be playing the five a lot for the Pacers. Celtics over the Bucks in what may have been the best game. Jason Tatum hit a game-winning three. Giannis had a chance to hit two free throws to tie it with no time left. Hit the first, missed the second. Pelicans over the Raptors, pretty big. Big game from Brandon Ingram, near triple double. Should be interesting to see what the Raptors do with their bigs. Spurs over the Grizzlies. Spurs gave some playing time to the young guns. It was won by DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, and Lonnie Walker. We'll see what happens when they get Derek White back. Big game from John Morant, but wasn't enough. Hawks over the Bulls. Trae Young put up a ridiculous stat line in just under 24 minutes, I believe. They had 83 points at halftime. Terrible showing from the Bulls, playing no defense as usual. Timberwolves over the Pistons, kind of a boring game. Anthony Edwards looked pretty good, though. That pairing of D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns looked well, too. Kings over the Nuggets in overtime. It was a game winner from Buddy Hield. Actually, the Nuggets had 4 seconds left, had the ball, turnover by Jokic in a tie game, missed dunk by Harrison Barnes, tipping by Buddy Hield. Jazz over the Blazers pretty easily, 20 points scored by each Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Cold showing from Damian Lillard, only managed to score 12 points, but I expect both teams to be in the thick of it. Suns over the Mavericks, debut for Chris Paul. Didn't really do a whole lot, but Devin Booker did just enough. Kristaps Porzingis was not available for the Mavericks, so the Luka Doncic show as normal, but did not prove to be enough. And that's a pretty quick rundown. If you want to go through anything else you wanted to add to that, feel free.
Yeah, I thought, and personally, I'll start with the Hornets Cavs game. I know the Cavs backcourt played well. I like that Gordon Hayward looks like he's kind of getting back to his form. And I think Terry Rozier, the way Rozier and LaMelo played, I think the Rozier is trying everything he can to keep that starting spot, in my opinion. The Knicks, as for the Knicks Pacers, I think the Pacers, RJ Barrett played well, but the Pacers showed that like when they're healthy, that they can be a scary team. I mean, their whole big three per se, Sabonis, Oladipo, and Brogdon all got like 20 points in the game, and I mean that's just hard to guard. I don't really have much to say about Miami Orlando. Good win for the Magic though. The Bucks Celtics, it was a crazy ending with Tatum's game winner, and I mean Giannis, just the free throws, man. I think that he's got to be working on those. Uh, Wizards Sixers, not much really here. I mean Westbrook had a great debut, and it's gonna be good to see what him and Beal have coming on. Pelicans Raptors, again, not much here. But I will say it was an interesting lineup for the Pelicans. Like I believe they started Bledsoe and Lonzo, which kind of surprised me personally. We'll see how that fits going on. The Hawks Bulls. Bulls were terrible defensively. It looked like the story of the Bulls like the last several years. Trae Young was great. I was surprised though Gallinari did start. Um, but even then the Hawks still aren't healthy, so there's a lot of potential still. Spurs and Grizzlies, it was pretty much the DeMar DeRozan, John Morant show. The Pistons, Timberwolves. I saw a few things. I think Josh Jackson might have a bigger role in Detroit and a better role in Detroit than people are giving credit for. And I think Malik Beasley as well. He had a really cold first half, and then he came like lights out in the second half, which was big for them in the win. As for the Kings Nuggets, I mean the Kings they are getting healthy. I mean they got Marvin Bagley playing, so I mean, who knows? They haven't been healthy in a long time. And the last time they were the 9 seed. So maybe. As for the Nuggets, Jokic, MPJ, they played well. Um, and we saw something from Jamal Murray that I think this is why I don't know if why ESPN ranks him so high with all this recency bias stuff. I like Jamal Murray. I think he's great, but he's always, at least so far in his career, he's always been this player where it's like he could drop 40 points one night and then he could drop 0 points another night. And for a player like that, how can you have him that high on that list above like some of these other guys like Kyrie Irving, I think it was, Pascal Siakam, who was an All NBA team last year? It just doesn't make sense. Jazz Blazers. It was kind of an ugly game for a lot of players, but it was even more ugly for Dame and Portland. But I expect both those teams to bounce back. Mavericks Suns. Luca looked all right, and I think that Chris Paul will make a big difference, even without being, putting up numbers in the stat sheet necessarily. I think that his difference was huge for guys like Aiton and Booker. Of course, the Rockets Thunder game got postponed, but I mean that pretty much rounds up all the games from day two. I don't know if you have anything that you want to add about that.
Yeah, I think just one team I want to look at, I'm looking at the box score right now, is you kind of mentioned it, the Pelicans. They have a lot of talent. I think a lot of it is just kind of how it fits because you talked about Lonzo starting alongside Eric Bledsoe. Um, a lot of what I'm going to say is kind of just shut down by the fact that Lonzo has a much improved three ball because when you look at the starting lineup, you don't see a whole lot of shooting. Last year, Lonzo was not a great 3 point shooter. Bledsoe can knock him down, but it's not somebody that you want taking a ton of 3 pointers. Steven Adams isn't shooting threes. Zion is not necessarily a guy that you want putting up a ton of threes. And then you got Brandon Ingram, who's more so of a mid range guy. So you don't really have like a knockdown 3 point shooter in that starting lineup. And so it's kind of interesting that they go Lonzo and Bledsoe and don't start JJ Redick. Um, but Redick did still get as many minutes as Lonzo. I think there's going to be a lot of mixing and matching there with those lineups. But it was just kind of something that caught my eye as kind of how the Pelicans are going to go about their rotations.
Yeah, I think playing off ball might help Lonzo Ball in terms of his deep range shooting as well. I did think it was interesting Reddick didn't start. I know it's been some time, but I don't know if you remember like when he played for the Bucks, he made a big ordeal about like how he wanted to start, and then they were forced to start like 6'3", you know, basically 6'3" average height for Jennings, Ellis, and JJ Redick at their 1, 2, and 3, and that never worked. That was just like a recipe for disaster. Um, but I mean, it's just interesting that he's taking a role kind of more so off the bench uh, at this point in his career.
Yeah, I'd agree. But I think all in all, it was an eventful day two of games. We saw some young guys show up and maybe look like they're headed towards a breakout season. We saw some teams that we thought would be we thought were going to be very good this year kind of look like they may have taken a step back. But once again, I want to caution everybody. It is only one game. I don't want everybody to kind of jump out of their seats and overreact a bunch. But there was a lot going on, and I think we're going to see a lot going on Christmas Day games as well. And if we want to cover those, we can go ahead and go through those. We have 5 games to cover. It's Pelicans Heat are going to open us up. We got the Warriors and the Bucks, the Nets and the Celtics, the Mavs and the Lakers, the Clippers and the Nuggets. So um, I don't know. Is there a game to you here that kind of sticks out as one that you're very intrigued by?
Um, I mean, I think there's a few that are pretty interesting. I mean, Pelicans Heat should be nice to see like a healthy Zion and he get back in track and stuff. Uh, Warriors, it'll be nice to see if Steph has any like response to Giannis's like max extension stuff. I would like to see though a Brooklyn at Boston with fans setting because I want to see Kyrie Irving like get all the noise from the crowd and then see how he reacts to it. But I mean the two that I'm looking at the most is the Mavericks Lakers. I think last year the LeBron Luca kind of rivalry was pretty much put into place, and I think now this season it's going to be nice to see because I mean Luca has some more experience under his belt, and of course LeBron is LeBron. So I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing that. But I don't know if there's really any other game more interesting than the Clippers Nuggets because the Clippers, I mean, last year they pretty much folded against the Nuggets and they're going to be out for revenge. And this is the first way to, like, have a chance to step on their throats. And if they don't, then, it could be a bunch of noise back in the media again about how the Nuggets own the Clippers. So I think that game might have a lot of weight to it. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think the Clippers Nuggets provides, like you said, kind of just more storylines. And then you got the Jamichael Green revenge game, although I'm not sure if he's going to be healthy to play that one. Net Celtics is the one that sticks out to me the most because I think they're very clearly the second and third best, or they're at least top 3 teams clearly to me in the East. And then you obviously factor in the Kyrie Irving going back to Boston, that whole narrative. So I'm really intrigued to see that. You have 2 teams coming off extreme highs. You got the Nets just dominating the Warriors, and you have the Celtics beating a Bucks team that many consider to be the favorites. So you have 2 teams coming off great performances there. Then on the other side, when you go to the Mavs Lakers, you got 2 teams that lost their opening night games, close games, albeit. And so I'm kind of interested to see how they respond there. You got LeBron possibly handing off the torch ish to Luca, kind of type thing. And there was that report this offseason that LeBron actually wanted to sign Luca under the LeBron section of Nike, if you will, under his own brand. So I think there's a brotherhood there, if you will, kind of a mentorship LeBron to Luca, and so I'm intrigued by that game. Um, Obviously, I'm going to watch them all. It's NBA Christmas. It's great to see, but those first two games just don't really stick out to me as anything that grabs my attention. Um, I'll have them on, but I'm more so interested in those final three.
Yep. I mean, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, if you want to move into your daily picks, we do have one for Christmas, which is the Clippers Nuggets. You taking Clippers or Nuggets on that one?
I have the Clippers. I think that they're going to come out, shut up the noise, and kind of just move on.
I agree. I think that the Clippers will make it a statement game for themselves. Uh, as for the 26th, we got the Hawks Grizzlies. Who you got in that one?
I have the Hawks beating the Grizzlies. I think um, outside of that point guard matchup, that's somewhat of a wash. I think the Hawks just have too much.
Yep, I agree. I think that the Hawks, they have a ton of pieces. It seems like right now, and they're only going to get better once everyone gets healthy. As for the next day, we got Sixers Cavs. Who you taking?
Yeah, I'm taking Philly there. I don't think there's too much to be said.
I also got the Sixers in that one. As for the 28th, we got Jazz Thunder. Who you got?
Yeah, as little as there is to be said about 76ers Cavs, I think there's even less to be said about Jazz Thunder. I'll take Utah and move on.
I also got Utah. I mean, they look good in the preseason. They looked good the other night against Portland. Um, I think that they could have a good thing going this season. The Nuggets Kings. This is kind of like a rematch of the other day. The Kings did win, but you think they go 2-0 to start the season against the Nuggets?
No, Nuggets will right the ship here and get their season going.
Yeah, I think the Nuggets will bounce back. And I should have said like 2-0 head to head against the Nuggets, not like because they'll play other games. But as for the 30th, we got the Hornets and the Mavericks. Who you got in this one?
Yeah, Luca over Lamelo for me.
I'm actually taking the Hornets. I think this is like very. This has a lot of potential to be like a surprise game. Uh, and I don't know. The Hornets just have like a lot of, as we mentioned, like with the Nets about all their wing players. I think the Hornets do have that as well. They just don't have like anything else, and they don't have like a whole lot of depth. So I don't know. I think for one night, I think the Hornets might be able to get it done. And then as for the last game, on the last day of the year, we got the Suns and the Jazz. Who are you taking on that one?
Yeah, I think this is probably the best matchup outside of that first game. We're covering Clippers Nuggets. I'm gonna go with the Jazz. Just think that they're too much to handle for the Suns.
I got the Jazz as well. I think it'll still take some time before the Suns get fully acclimated to everything. They did look good the other night, but I mean, this Jazz core has been together for like probably 3, 4 years now. Um, and I mean, yeah, they did look good for the past several weeks. So that's pretty much going to cap off the show. I hope you guys enjoyed. I don't know if you got anything you want to add. Final thoughts, Johnny?
Yeah, that game on the 30th is going to determine which one of us wins this week. Have the same picks across the board, minus that Hornets Mavs game. So uh, that one will ultimately decide which one of us takes week one of daily picks this year.
Yeah, I tried to spice it up. I felt like I was every one of these games. It was because we do like a random generator. This is how we pick the games, and I felt like all these games are like so much favoring one player. I could be wrong. I mean, anything can happen in the NBA, but I don't know. I just wanted to spice it up, and I don't know. I'm banking on a big Gordon Hayward game per se, but
Yeah, and especially just this early on in the season, anything can happen. Coaches' rotations are still being put into place, and there's just a bunch of moving parts. But yeah, I think that's all. And as Garrett said, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening, and both of us just want to wish you guys the happiest of holidays and happiest of New Year's, and stay healthy as we get into 2021 and can continue to just cover more basketball games.
yes, sir. I couldn't have said it more. Thank you guys for watching, and we're out. Peace.
Peace.